Kristen, thank you, and Happy New Year to everyone that's on the call. And let's hope it's going to be another exciting year for you guys and especially for us. Thank you very much. All right, so let's get straight into it. So just maybe the format for today is just briefly. I'll go through a sort of a structured feedback session, starting with maybe Tennessee Mountain, and then I'll hand over to Jonathan to take you through the exciting drill results, or the first drill results we received out of Antimony Canyon project, which is really exciting for us. And then I'll end by trying to answer some of the questions that have come through via email. And again, just raise your hand, and we'll try and get to the questions given the time that we have. Okay. So maybe straight into it, just talk a bit about Tennessee Mountain, sort of the permitting and drilling timelines. So the initial permit for Tennessee Mountain, we are hoping to get by the end of February. Obviously, a lot of that would depend on the U.S. Forest Service. As mentioned before, we are going to do confirmation drilling there, 20 odd holes that were drilled before. And we're hoping to get that permit pretty quickly because it's already on previously disturbed land. And following that, we're already starting to work on subsequent notices of intent for other drilling, and we hope to have those submitted by Q2 in 2026. So again, there's a lot of work to be done on Tennessee Mountain, and yeah, we're looking forward to getting on the ground and start drilling as well. In terms of our asset prioritization in 2026, our priority, as mentioned before, and I've told the story all the way through 2025, our priority is still Antimony Canyon, the drilling. In terms of the milestones we've achieved there, obviously a big milestone for us was actually getting our drilling permit approved or submitted and then approved, which was pretty quick. And I just want to thank the guys out at the Department of Oil, Gas and Mining in Utah State for getting that turned around pretty quickly. The guys are really fantastic to work with, and they're fully supportive of our project. So our biggest milestone, obviously, which Johnny will talk about, is we've finished our first hole, second hole. We're on our third hole already drilling, and John is just going to give you a bit of feedback on the first hole, which is again pretty exciting for us. At the same time, we're going to be starting our drilling, as mentioned before, at Tennessee Mountain, and a milestone for us there would be obviously to confirm the resource that was done with the previous drilling many years ago. In terms of our resources, again, we have enough cash to do the work we need to do at ACP and to do the work we need to do at Tennessee Mountain, and as well as doing some further geophysics and geology work out at Nightingale. So we have enough people. We've got a great team on the ground headed by a fantastic in-country US-based exploration manager, Dr. Michael Feinstein. He's doing a fantastic job. He's got a great team that all working for us, and yeah, they're really doing a good job on the ground. And I think Mike is a bit tireless in his efforts and really working hard to get ACP and then obviously Tennessee Mountain going as well. Maybe just for me to cover for you guys, what would a successful 2026 look like for us? So again, that's a really big, really wide area that I can probably cover, and I'll try and just give you what I see as important milestones for us in 2026. So obviously we want to carry on drilling our ACP patented claims. Like I mentioned before, our focus is 100% on the patented claims at ACP. And the reason being is just the permitting is a lot quicker. The areas of the patented claims are pretty much cover a lot of the old the mining areas. And we believe that it's probably the areas that we can build up a resource with pretty quickly, and get on the ground pretty quickly to start doing some pilot mining. So again, pilot mining, we'll hope to start doing that sort of by Q3 later this year. At the same time, we have already started work on the NOIs for drilling and geology work on the unpatented claims, and that will be going to the US Forest Service. Obviously, the timelines for approval with that, I don't know what the timelines are, but they will be definitely longer than the approvals through Department of Oil, Gas and Mining at Utah State. Again, a milestone for us would be the MRE and the initial pre-feasibility study for ACP, again, second half of this year. And then submitting an NOI, notice of intent, and a plan of operations for getting a pilot plant and a full-scale plant and full-scale mining for the Antimony Canyon project as well. So we'll hope to have that submitted again by sort of quarter 3, quarter 4 this year. A lot would depend on the outcomes of the drilling and what our plans are. And then at the same time, we also still working on the smelter strategy. We're busy talking to Metso at the moment, and we hope to have a full engineering study delivered later this year, and as well as a site selection. We're actually pretty much advanced with the site selection for the smelter. Some of us will be going over in February, and we'll be looking at some sites as well. Obviously, there's a lot of work's been going into it, looking at the best state to put our smelter in, the one of the most advantaged for us. And we hope to have that finalized by sort of the end of February, early March. Again, we're also working on applications for US government funding. And then if we can get some kind of US government support or funding during the year, that'll be a big plus for us as well. In terms of the NASDAQ listing, that's also happening in the background. And the guys have been doing a lot of work on the audits and submission to the SEC and to NASDAQ. And again, I can't give a strict timeline on that, but we're hoping to do that definitely in the first half of 2026, have our NASDAQ dual listing done. In terms of Tennessee Mountain, again, as I mentioned earlier, we hope to have that initial drilling done at Tennessee Mountain. And later during this year, we obviously want to get the MRE done, the mineral resource estimate, and a PFS done, and then obviously some approvals later in the year to do some initial pilot mining and then full-scale mining. And we're also looking at, in terms of tungsten. I mean, tungsten's really hot at the moment, and again, there's no short-term solution for getting tungsten and antimony mines going in the US. And so we see tungsten as a really important strategy for us, and we're definitely looking at not just a district, but a regional consolidation and an expansion of our tungsten projects. It's sort of focused on the northern Nevada area, and with particular focus on obtaining some processing capabilities in the area as well. In terms of offtakes and for antimony and tungsten, we discussed with a lot of companies at the moment. We're in discussions with a lot of companies at the moment. We've also been in discussions with the US Department of War. I actually can't say too much about that, but we're definitely in some really good discussions with the right people in terms of longer term offtakes. But as you know, these things don't happen overnight, and a lot of the people will be waiting for some of the results from our drilling, etc. So just in terms of resource pathway, in terms of Tennessee Mountain, as mentioned earlier, just going to go through our steps in terms of confirmation drilling, securing a processing facility, like I mentioned, which is really important for us, a district and regional consolidation, executing on our drill plans. In terms of the MRE and PFS, we hope to have that done sort of by quarter 3, pilot mining starting at Tennessee Mountain in quarter 4, and we hope to be sort of in a place to start our processing on a larger scale and mining on a larger scale, probably in the second half of 2027 at Tennessee Mountain. Just general comment about funding. Again, as I mentioned before in previous webinars and presentations, at this stage we have enough cash for our short to medium term strategy, and that would include Antimony Canyon, Tennessee Mountain, and obviously a little bit of work we're going to be doing at Nightingale as well. But again, it's mining. Mining is expensive, and to take us to the next stage of where the company wants to be, I mean, obviously we're going to definitely need more cash, and that can be in the form of US government funding, debt finance, equity raise, or a combination of all 3 of those. But again, there's lots of work happening in the background. We're going to be doing a visit early in February to the US, and we've got a lot of meetings lined up with major US banks as well to talk to them about longer term funding as well. Again, the timing of all this will be decided by the market conditions and by our internal requirements. But we'll keep you guys posted, as soon as we have some clarity on how we're going to get this funding done and some of the feedback we get from the banks and the US government. We'll certainly keep the market informed about that. just talking about just general sort of strategic engagement and offtake agreements. We've been discussing offtakes again with quite a lot of international companies and the US government. We've had really good discussions with the US Department of War. In fact, I'm going to visit one of their facilities in February. And we've got during my trip in February, I'm also meeting with a lot of the agencies, DOW, Department of Energy, Department of the Inland, Department of Commerce, Department of Agriculture, and just to get ourselves aligned. And these are all follow-up meetings. I've met with a lot of these people before, and we'll be meeting with a lot of the senior politicians, senators, and people from Congress as well while I'm there. So our strategy generally is still to have this vertically integrated supply chain of antimony and quite importantly tungsten as well, that's sovereign to the US and aligned with the strategy in the US at the moment, which is made in the USA and not reliant on China for a supply of critical minerals, specifically antimony and tungsten. And just coming back to the US policy and maybe talking a bit about critical minerals alignment, there's still a big push in the US to ensure that they have a sovereign supply of antimony and tungsten. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of interest in what we're doing from the US government specifically, and obviously a lot of investors and banks as well. During my visit in early February, one of the big meetings I'm going to be having is with the Department of War, as I mentioned earlier. And in terms of that, we're actually busy with some funding applications at the moment. Obviously, I can't say too much about those. And as soon as we have any news, again, I'll be feeding back to the market as well. I'm going to hand over to Jono now. Hopefully that's a sort of a snapshot of an update of where we're going and what we're doing. It's going to be a busy year for us. But again, we're not in the game of cutting corners and doing things. We're using shortcuts. We're going to go through the process meticulously as is shown at Antimony Canyon. But we are an impatient company, and we do things on the fly. We do things really, really quickly, and again, we'll keep our aggressive attitude, our aggressive approach to getting things done, and we'll hopefully reach some really major milestones in 2026. Okay, John, if you can just take us through the drill results, and then what I'll do at the end is I'll try and answer some of the questions that have come through. Over to you.
Good, thank you. And I'm just going to throw something up quickly, just to agree with Andre. Has that come through? Come on.
That's just showing your emails.
There we are. Has that come through now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I just thought that, as Andre was just discussing, we are very aggressive and we are moving very, very quickly, but we also like to do things right and do it once. And really, I thought I would use this opportunity just to really set the scene for the results that have been returned to us. And hopefully from that, those viewing will get the confidence that we are doing things right and that there is a big future for this project. So just a quick reminder of where we're sitting. We're in southern central Utah. The project is centered on the Antimony Canyon area, and we have the Dry Wash Canyon to the north. There's essentially two levels of control. There are the blue outlines, which are the patented claims, which is our focus for the time being. And then there's the red block, which are our unpatented claims, on which we are yet to work, but we are progressing that aspect forward as we speak. Coming into the patented claims, you can see them again in blue on here. You can see the historical mines. So there's a number of historical mines. The area that we're concentrating on for today's discussion really is the Emma, Little Emma, Nevada, Albion area, which is sitting in the central area on the southern flank. Now, we have completed an NOI, of course, for this area and the Gem area to get in and do some work. We are currently pursuing NOIs for the Star, the Emily, and the Pluto areas. So the plan is, of course, for the drilling rig to basically never leave site and just to continue working. We initially are focusing on this southern flank, and then we will move on to the northern flank. The next diagram really is just showing you the reasons why we've chosen what we've chosen. You can see this is just really the first round and second round of sampling combined. You can see the numbers. They're fantastic. These are rock chips. Pluto, 25%, fantastic. Star, we've got almost 13% there. Gem, we're at 18%. And when we start to look in the Emma area, and Emily, Nevada, Little Emma, Nevada, Albion, you can see again, we're up around the 30% mark. So with some of our numbers. So the objective is to basically just progress our way through the patented leases where all the historical mines are located and essentially build a resource base. Quick reminder, we use the geophysics really to guide a lot of our work. This is the CSAMT. It's on a section that runs essentially through the Emma area. And what you note very quickly is these resistive areas, and then we've got these big conductive areas. And the mineralization is sitting generally around the edge of these resistive areas. And there are a number of structures that are cutting through, and we've been able to interpret these from the CSAMT data. And in fact, our interpretation is that these subvertical structures are the feeder zones. And then where we see these resistive bands, these are essentially representative of the outflow zones. So we start to see these big lateral zones, which some are conductors, but usually they're capped by a resistor. And the mineralization is basically coming up these feeder zones, hitting our preferred lithology, which is what we call the salt and pepper tuff. And then the mineralization just permeates out along this preferred horizon. So we've been using all of this information to inform our drilling decisions. We've been using all of this information to inform our model. And at this point in time, I think we can say that our model, our geological model, is working for us. And that means that going forward, we believe that we can significantly constrain our costs, focus our drilling, and basically get to a target resource pronto. There are other advantages that we've seen by putting some drill holes in the ground, and that is that we are seeing pyrite, pyrrhotite, and a number of sulfides associated with the alteration system. And that was an unknown to us until the drill hole. And it's great because, of course, it means that we can use geophysics to even better inform us as to where we should locate our drill holes. So on the diagram that you can see on your screen, that is the current lay of the land. We are on top of this knoll, if you would like to call it that, which represents the Little Emma area. In blue, this is our first drill hole. Our second drill and third drill hole are currently being drilled off this pad. I say currently being drilled because hole 2 is in fact incomplete, and the rods are stuck in the hole. They're ready to go. We will basically put the rig back on top of those rods and finish that hole as soon as some new gear arrives. And hole 2 is oriented to the northeast. I should mention that hole 1 is basically to the west. Hole 2 and 3 are both to the northeast. Hole 2 was subvertical, whereas hole 3 is an inclined hole, which is targeting a feeder system, which we interpret as running up this valley system over here to the east. Now that is defined by geophysics, but it's also visible and was mapped previously by the USGS. So we know it's there. This is the knoll that we are talking about, that we are sitting on currently. Here's the historical mines. And we are viewing south. The other view, we were basically just looking due north. This time we're looking into the plain to the south, and the drilling rig is set up in this position over here as we speak right now. Coming into the drilling itself, a quick look at the hole. I think the great thing is that we've intercepted this fantastic alteration system. It's got substantial width. At this point in this hole, at least, which is hole 1, it seems to be about 42 meters wide. And within that, we've got mineralization sitting at several levels. So we have the main mineralized zone, which is about 19 meters thick. And then we have a higher zone, and we have a lower zone, which is sitting in the basal conglomerate. Now, the important thing about that is, and we've highlighted this previously, this was an unknown to us. We knew that there may be some mineralization above the main mineralized zone, but it's only through our field work that we identified that there is mineralization within the basal conglomerate, and in fact, there's mineralization beneath the basal conglomerate. So we really are only at this stage, with this drill hole in particular, are targeting the main mineralized zone. We will push some deeper holes down to try and see what sits beneath this main mineralized zone, and who knows what we will find. And that is a segue into another comment that I'll make shortly. But the key thing I want to point out is we have a 19-meter wide zone. The stibnite abundance is high. And when you consider that stibnite converts to about 80% roughly will convert to directly to antimony, well, then you're starting to look at a potential high-grade system. Certainly the widths of this system are well beyond anything in the US at this point in time. And the company, as in American Antimony and Tungsten, is actually the beneficiary of 2 deposits which display exceptional width. One being Antimony Canyon, as we're looking at now, and the other is, of course, Wild Cattle Creek, where we also have a system that is up to 20 meters wide, and we're averaging 20 meters wide at a grade of just under 2%. So the company's sitting in a fantastic position. And though I will put a qualifier, one drill hole does not make a mine. This is a very, very good hole, a fantastic start. It is supported by the second hole and third hole at this point in time. Let's hope it continues. The mineralization itself, as you can see, there's some pyrite associated with it. When you look at the photo, you can see that the sulfides are breaking down, so there is some oxidation happening within the ore body. We're not sure how these will report, but you can see this redox development basically occurring within the ore zone. So the ore zone is a bit blocky, but the core recoveries are actually very, very satisfactory. And therefore, we at this point in time are very encouraged by what we see. Another observation, and that's really the end of that part, is that as we've moved to the northeast and we've started to more specifically target the feeder zone, we are starting to see orpiment and realga, which are 2 arsenic sulfides, the presence of those. The presence of both of them indicate an epithermal hydrothermal system, and they're also indicating that it's a relatively cool system. So as we have discussed previously, oh yes, sorry, stop share. Sorry about that. So it's a relatively cool system, and as we know with systems like this, the outermost zoning will be relatively clean antimony, which is what we have. As we are approaching a feeder system, you'll start to see these other minerals coming in. And then what that typically means is that these things are potentially sitting on a gold system at depth. So that's really our big picture view at this point in time. We are very encouraged, of course. We are using the information, and I hope that that came across through this very brief, disorganized presentation. But we're very encouraged by what we see, and we're very, very grateful for the work that's been done by Mike and his team over there. Exceptional work. And look, I think that's all I can really say at this point in time. The assays, of course, will be expedited, and the samples will be off to the lab this week. So I would hope that in 2 to 3 weeks, we will be back to you confirming everything that I've just discussed. And I'll leave it there, Andre. Andre, you're on mute.
Thanks, John. Sorry. Maybe just to reiterate what Jono was saying about, one hole or two holes or three holes doesn't make a mine. We all know that, and of course, every miner hopes, or every explorer hopes, that we come up good on every single hole we drill. But that's unrealistic expectations, and I'm sure we're going to have holes that are going to come up, probably not blank, but obviously with much lower grades, etc. So that's just to maybe manage the expectations out in the market. That's pretty normal for most explorers. But again, we'll be holding out hope that we come good with every single one of these. All right, so just maybe quickly go through some questions. There was a question about Morrison's have been a strong holder with recent placing, etc. Will placings will target more reliable partners? I'm not quite sure what you meant by that, Peter Thorpe. In terms of more reliable partners, I mean, we're obviously going to do any future raises, capital raises, from obviously reliable, what we see as reliable partners. But we're going to do what's in the best interest for our shareholders. We'll always try and get the best deal, and we'll do it on terms that are obviously best for the company and best for our shareholders. So you can rest assured that we're not going to sell ourselves short on just trying to raise any cash in future. There was a question about divesting our non-core assets to a new company. Really, the benefit to the shareholders from doing that is, the current shareholders are all going to be part owners of that as well. So whatever shareholding you have at the moment, you'll be part of the new company as well, and obviously with the choice to divest yourself from that at some stage if you choose to. I think I've given an update on the NASDAQ listing. As mentioned before, we're aiming for hopefully in the first half of 2026 to get that done, the dual listing. A lot of that would depend on the SEC and NASDAQ requirements and how fast they come back with questions and clarifications, etc., and requests for further information. There's a question about marketing to American investors. Yes, we actually are marketing to American investors. I did a conference in December. I'm about to follow up with another one, an online conference with the emerging growth market. We're just about to engage a very big agency in the US as well to start doing a lot of marketing for us in the US in anticipation of our NASDAQ listing. But as you know, we're already on the OTC as well. So US funding, there's a question I gave an update on that. That is in progress at the moment, but being the US government, things move very slowly. But we're pretty confident that at some stage we can get some positive feedback from the US government on that. There was a question around Tennessee Mountain permitting and drilling. I think I've given an update on that already. I'm just going to go through the Q&As that have come through. The current status and expected timing of planned NASDAQ dual listings, I've given an update. So the reference to the quarter. So whenever I say quarters or halves, I'm actually referring to calendar year, not financial years. An update on Wild Cattle Creek, and will the federal government actually help here? Just an update on Wild Cattle Creek. We have some work happening in the background in terms of looking at our strategy, going through our resource again, and working on some plans. Yes, we have started discussions with the federal government. We've also started discussions with a New South Wales government as well, and we have a good team out of Sydney helping us with that. And I'll probably be able to give some feedback at some time in the future on Wild Cattle Creek and what our intentions are there. But as John I mentioned earlier, we actually have two really world-class resources that are, with really wide, thick ore bodies, and high grade. I mean, we're pretty fortunate that one in Australia and one at ACP, and both really fantastic both really fantastic assets to have. Andre, is there a possibility of discovering gold and silver during the drilling campaign? I'm actually going to let Jono answer that one.
Yes.
Always.
I think that we're seeing all the right ingredients, and at the moment it's just a function of depth. And so I'll kill two birds, because I think there's another question there about targeting the gold. These are hot fluids that come in, but they cool as they ascend. And as they ascend, they start to partition, they separate. And so The antimony really and the arsenic are representing probably the outermost, coolest parts of the hydrothermal system. The gold requires a higher temperature for the gold to be stable in solution. And so as soon as it reaches that temperature, or it hits some rocks, or it hits something which changes that temperature and alters the conditions in the fluid, the gold will just drop out. Now, it will drop out deeper down because it needs hotter conditions to be mobile. So we've got to drill deeper holes, and we will be drilling deeper holes. And if we come across the gold, we will be chasing it.
Thanks, Ty. There's a question around the plans to keep the rigs on site. Yes, we're keeping the rig on site, and yes, we are actually looking at the possibility of getting another rig on site as well. Okay, but obviously there's a limited number of rigs in the US at the moment, and yeah, we're working hard. We've got a really good team on the ground, yeah, doing the drilling for us. The guys are really professional, and yes, we are working on trying to get another rig to accelerate the process for us. But obviously, we don't want the rig on the ground until we have all the notices of intent approved by Department of Oil, Gas and Mining, and then we'll start accelerating the drilling. There's a question about, have we had talks with either Perpetua and US Antimony in regards to offtake? I can't answer that question directly, but probably someone like Perpetua and that should be talking to us. I mean, you know, our strategy is aligned from a vertical strategy from mining all the way through to smelting. So if anything, people should be talking to us about offtake, and you know, we're not going to be talking to other producers directly about offtake. But yes, there's always opportunities for cooperation. There's always opportunities for doing things together, and the US government itself actually looks favorably on mining companies such as Perpetua, US Antimony, and us, you know, working together on projects and cooperating. So the US government antimony strategic reserve and Whitecattle Creek, what's happening? I think I sort of answered that. We're actually busy with Whitecattle Creek, looking at Whitecattle Creek at the moment and speaking to the government. Again, this government's a strategic reserve initiative. There was an announcement earlier this week about the from the treasurer about the strategic reserve, and they've put money aside for that. I think the biggest challenge is not just the money and talking about a strategic reserve, but it's also, you know, talking to the states, etc., to try and help mining companies accelerate things like permitting, etc., because that's still the bottleneck. It's not you know, all money is always great, and it's great when the government puts up money to help mining companies, etc., and exploration companies. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're still going to take 3 to 4 years to permit a mine, then, you know, there's going to be no short-term strategic reserve for anyone. When is the recorded date for the spin-off of King? That's in progress at the moment. I can't give you any dates at the moment, but that's in progress. And as soon as I have an update for you, I will certainly let the market know. Questions around some deep holes being planned to see what's beneath. How deep are these anticipated to be? Maybe, Jono, you could answer that in terms of how deep we expect to go.
Yeah, okay. So Alex, in response to your question, if you look at Hillgrove, for example, or even Wildcattle Creek, when I was talking about that separation, it's not huge. There is overlap. You'll often find antimony and gold together. The upper part will be antimony rich, the lower part will be gold rich, but there'll still be antimony with it. And that's what we would expect to see here. We would expect to see the system in the feeders. That's the qualifier. In the feeder zones, we'd see an antimony rich upper part with gold slowly merging in and then becoming more gold dominant with depth. So the holes are not necessarily going to be significantly deeper than what the planned deepest hole at this point. So that's only a couple of 100 meters.
Thanks, Jono. Question about what is the cost of building a smelter, and will we need two, one for Tennessee Mountain, one for Antimony Canyon? The answer to the second part is yes. So how much does it cost to build a smelter? Look, it depends on the size of the smelter. You know, you could go anything from you know, $100 million to, you know, $500 million, depending on what size smelter you're going for. Our aim is to sort of aim for that sort of sweet spot of producing about 5,000 tons of antimony metal in some form. Obviously, we're going to be producing metal from the smelter, ingots, and we're also planning to add a circuit on there to produce antimony trioxide. And if we do find gold at some stage, we'll end up putting a gold circuit on that as well. In terms of the different smelters, yes, you're going to need two smelters for antimony and one for tungsten. Antimony, if you don't know, antimony melting point is at about just over 600 degrees centigrade, and the melting point for tungsten is over 3,000. I think it's 3,300, if I'm not mistaken, degrees centigrade. So yes, very different smelting technology, very different types of furnace. Obviously, a lot more energy required to reach temperatures of 3,300 tons. But again, smelters, basic smelters can be reconfigured, can be adjusted, furnaces can be changed, etc. But we don't anticipate using one smelter for both. But yes, our long-term strategy for tungsten and specifically would be to, obviously a priority for us is to try and get some tungsten processing facilities as well. And that's very important for us. And we'll have some news flow on that in the foreseeable future. Just keep an eye out for that. And yeah, same with the smelting. We haven't started our strategy on tungsten smelting yet, but we have been in discussions with the Department of War around long-term stockpiles and some processing facilities and siting for antimony and tungsten smelting facilities. And again, as soon as we have some kind of agreement signed with them, we will keep the market updated as well. Okay. And then the last question, I think, was, or second to last question was, will there be much news flow over the next few weeks beside assets? Yes. The answer to that is yes. Just keep an eye out. Do we now become a takeover target? I suppose we're always a takeover target. What price would we be looking for as a minimum? Again, I can't give you a price. I can't, we're not even thinking about takeover targets at the moment. We're just doing what we're doing. And we fully intend to develop our assets that we have and become a vertically integrated antimony and tungsten company. But should someone come along with a takeover target, with a takeover offer, I really can't give a price. But again, we'll be doing what's best for our shareholders.
Yeah.
So just another question, a statement. Well done on your merging process. Great to see the Drollets. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much, Alistair. Thanks for the vote of confidence. And then the last one is about gold, which I think Jono has covered already. Okay. All right, thank you very much, guys. I think we've kept everyone now for almost 40 minutes. It's been quite a marathon session for us. Again, thanks, Jono. Thanks for all the hard work. The team's really been putting in a lot of efforts. The board, as I said, as I told you guys before, we have a very active board of directors. Everyone's involved. Everyone does their bit. They really support me a lot in what I'm trying to achieve with the strategy of the company. Special thanks to, obviously, Jono has been doing a lot of work in the background, as always. All those nice announcements you see coming out, that's all Jono's work, and he works tirelessly to get those out and obviously keep an eye on the geology and the exploration. The guy on the ground, Dr. Mike Feinstein, he's just fantastic. He's got an amazing team. They've got going so quickly, and Mike works, I would say 24 hours a day, but he just works tirelessly on the ground, and he's our exploration manager on the ground. And yeah, we're looking forward to a long association with Mike and his team, and keeping up the good work. Yeah, just to end off by saying thanks, guys. Thanks for the support. We'll keep the news flow coming. 2026 is going to be an exciting year for everyone. Stick with us, and we're going to make antimony great again, and we're going to make tungsten great again too. So, thank you very much, everyone, and yeah, we'll hopefully chat soon. And I'll be bringing out some little updates, little